So good afternoon, Confidence. Thank you for being on today's episode, today's video. I really appreciate your being here. So some days ago, I had asked you a question, which I told you that I also sent to about 15 other guys, other men, asking them the same question. So for the sake of this video, I would ask the question again, then we'll discuss we'll just try and talk about it at length. So the question was, what would be your advice to young lads, young guys in their teenage years and in their early 20s, from the standpoint of three things you would do differently if you had the privilege to relive those years, those teenage years, those early 20s years? So what would be your advice to them from the standpoint of those things?
Okay, I would thank you very much for the question. I think if I were to answer the question, I would say that I think the first thing that would matter for a male or for any individual, I think males in particular, is the issue of mentorship, because I think it's very, very important. So first of all, I would want them to identify a mentor, and because role models are very important in your life, and if you do that early enough in life, you would have an advantage. You need to be in the right mentorship framework that will help you for your life, Then secondly, it will be a matter of finding purpose and taking steps towards it, knowing what is your niche in life and knowing what you're supposed to do. For a guy, I think purpose is a major thing for many reasons. And then thirdly will be the matter of finance. You should, one way or the other, know how to start helping yourself in that area. Those three things in my early 20s or maybe earlier, that would three things I would, if had done, maybe I would have been a lot better.
Why I think that question came to me was that I looked at my environment. I looked at the people I have around me. I looked at both genders, from a guy's perspective, from a lady's, side of things. And I saw that an average lady, let's say maybe a girl was born and she lost her mom. So she now has her dad alone and maybe some aunties. Say she has siblings or she has cousins or she has relatives. The average lady would still have people around her to bring her, to draw her ears, to correct her from an early age, to point her, as to, okay, this is how you're supposed to do this is how you're supposed to be that. But the boy child is as if the boy child is left alone. And we see that today a lot in our environment. When you hear of a rape case, you think of a boy child or a guy. Can you talk in light of this? Because we've had this discussion many times, the two of us. So can we just talk about this?
I would say, like you mentioned, certain vices about crime, rape, and all these things. And I think what sums it up as to the reason for many of these things would be failed fatherhood. I think fatherhood is at the center of every of these things you have mentioned. There's a study, even though it's in the US, about the whole mass shooting, gang culture and drugs and everything in those societies. What they found out was that 90% of people involved in these things either did not have a father because of the single parenting culture in the US, and even people that had a father, they had absent fathers. So so study shows that that's like a big reason why the boys had those kind of life. Their life turned out to be in that way. So I would say that comparing the boy and the girl, I think that life is difficult, but life shouldn't be more difficult for some persons because of for nothing. So what I would say that is that, like you mentioned about the females having some level of mentorship around them, is even in the nuclear family setting, you find out that a boy and a girl growing up, like if you're 10, 11, at that point you begin to have some kind of secret conversations with your mom that nobody's privy to. Your dad doesn't even know what you guys are talking about, and your mom, you yourself. I have two siblings. One, I have an elder sibling, a female, and a younger sibling. So I'm the only son. So I kind of grew up with that. So at some point, I started to see that my mom would have these kind of conversations with my siblings, and they talked about certain things, and so that kind of drew them closer to my mom in certain secret things. But for me, even though my dad would be like, okay, he likes me, he loves me as like his only son, and will kind of show some kind of this thing, he will maybe want to give you more money or pay attention to you. But the things that really mattered, he was absent, and so that really is the cause of that. Shows that there's an unwritten idea that the guy should figure out himself. He knows what he should do. And one way or the other, everybody just believes that he should figure it out. So I went on an outreach last year, and I spoke to secondary school students, and that was the same thing. And everybody agreed that, like, for as simple as what an erection is, which you should have around 11, you should understand what that means.
10, yes.
Their dads didn't tell them anything about that. So basically, the boy child was just left to, you have to find a way to figure it out. So how do they learn it? Home economics in just 1, just 2 tell you about puberty. So the boy learns about puberty. His secondary school teacher is the one that first teaches him about what's happening in his body, where he has a dad at home. That's terrible. And so just to not to go too much into it, but that just shows you what can go wrong from that. Having to get your source of information from an external source than your dad. So not just about your own sexuality, for many other things in life, it's hard on the boy child. So I think I will leave it at that.
Well, thank you very much. You addressed some very key things here that I was also going to bring eventually. What you said earlier about how that from an early age, like from the age of 8, 9, 10, the girl child already starts having conversations with her mom. Now, this is something that is missing in the boy child and in his talks with his dad.
Okay, I think that one of the issues that like things have gotten better, with parenting in the recent times. Now parents are more likely to remember your birthday and do parana for you. Like parents are more likely to do public display of affection. Parents are more likely these days to say I love you and stuff like that. But there's this issue that I think that maybe because of the way we have been socialized, as a guy, as a male, there's a role that we are most likely we're more in tune to playing, which is the protector provider role. So our fathers were trained for protector provider role, and they did that to the best of their knowledge, and that's what they did. In the industrial age, in the times where people went to work in the mines, so men went out there, stuck in, had to do what they needed to do. Some of them had to come down with all kinds of lungs, and all those sicknesses as a result, because they needed to play protector. And if you touch their family, they are going to do the extra, to do that. And so, but there was one role that was left, unattended to, which is the father mentor role, which has I think what it has produced is it has made that we've had since fatherhood is deficient, the boys are not well raised, and it also affects the kind of father. So it has just been a chain of like passing down those kind of values. And even in our generation now, I don't think we've actually gotten any better, because there's if you ask 9 out of 10 guys what they want to do, what they want to have a hang on before they get married or start raising kids, is to have a lot of money. I want to have a lot of money so that I can be able to provide for my family, and money comes some kind of level of protection. But like in my mind, am I really getting ready to become a father to actually sit down and mentor children, and provide that fatherly role for them? I don't see it as I one time I was talking in church, and basically I asked the question that, how many people get ready for, like, when they want to get married? How many people are actually thinking about parenting, reading parenting? How many guys read parenting books, want to think, how do I communicate to a child? How do I instill values? I don't think 9 out of 10 guys have not thought about that. So like, parenting is something that happens to us, and we have to find a way to adjust to that. And things are going very fast these days. There's this internet. Children are exposed to internet more earlier than they should, and a lot of things, before you know it, you can see your values. You have good values, but because you don't have what it takes, you are not prepared for the role of a father and mentor. You see that your children turn out, different from what you are. It's not because the dads are bad in themselves. They are very good people, but they are not just ready for those roles. All their life, they prepared for the provider, protector role, and they are playing into the best of their knowledge. They are going out there every day, 9 to 5, doing all they need to do to provide good life for those children. But it doesn't really turn out well. So I think that is the issue, that we should school our young men to be prepared to become fathers and mentees to these children. I know that he might because of certain other issues, like the fact that the child is going to have some kind of proclivity to the mom, but you have to play your role, and if that role is there, you'll be sure that you have added value to another generation. So I just think I'll stop at that.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for the thoughts you shared. So to everyone, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Leave your comments. We'd like to know, what are your suggestions to these questions that we've asked, to this talk we've had today? What do you think? What can you say? If you're a guy watching this video, if you're a lady watching this video, from your perspective, what can you say? We'd love to read your comments. I would love to respond to your comments. Thank you very much, and happy luck next time.